ready to serve.
When you think about the Western genre in video games, there's not many that come to mind. But when you think about the Western genre in movies, there's a lot more. I mean, you've got Texas, which I take my word for it, you don't really need to see that one. But there's also some great ones. You've got The Wild Bunch and The Unforgiven, and more recently, The Hateful Eight. Thankfully, Rockstar Games has crafted a game that's more similar to those last three movies than Texas. Sure, there's some hiccups along the way, but the good outweighs the bad and the ugly. What Rockstar Games has created with Red Dead Redemption 2 is absolutely astounding. The game itself is part survival game, part action game, and surprisingly, part simulator. If you've ever wanted to rob a train, rob a bank, hunt a grizzly bear, or, I don't know, maybe capture the outlaw the law's been after, the choice is yours. This is, of course, all done in the confines of a video game. I don't condone doing these things in real life. In this game, you get to live as if you're part of the Wild West, from the makeshift community you form to the rivalry amongst your gang as the game goes on. I won't spoil it here, but suffice to say, if you stick with the game, you are rewarded with an amazing story. Of course, one of the great things about Red Dead, much like other games Rockstar has produced, is the fact you don't really have to stick with the story at all to enjoy your time here. It's great fun to be an outlaw until you realize you have a bounty on your head of about $250. Sounds like a trifle sum now, but in the Old West, that's likely equivalent to 100,000 or so. How did I acquire this bounty? Well, let's just say there's a certain pharmacy that is a little low on their funds. Don't worry though, it was a front for a rival outlaw gang. The sheriff of the town, however, didn't really appreciate this incident in his town, and a witness quickly reported me. Oh yeah, the people who populate the world will report you to the law, and the bounty hunters will track you. That makes a huge difference in how you're responded to, and also how much graphic detail is shown. Be more of an outlaw, and, well, you get the idea. This, of course, just adds to the experience even more, and being chased by a group of bounty hunters is exhilarating. Getting back to the survival part I talked about earlier, if you're not being chased by bounty hunters, tricked into helping someone, and then robbed yourself, there are plenty of other things to worry about. Food, for example. Yeah, you have to eat. Yep, it'll affect your aim and other elements. But I gotta tell you, there's nothing like enjoying coffee and watching the sunrise. The game itself is just that gorgeous. Just don't forget to take a bath, cut your hair, and retrieve your hat. Oh, and also, feed and groom your horse. Speaking of horses, the simple fact is the horses move realistically and are the best horses I've ever seen rendered in a video game. You can brush your horse or simply travel through a river to clean your horse. Bond with your horse, and you will be rewarded with turn slides and all sorts of other cool moves. Don't forget though, you just went through a river, didn't you? Were your 6-shooters in the saddlebag? Best to polish them or they will rust. That is the level of immersion we're talking about here. This level of immersion can be to your liking, or perhaps not, and there are some definite issues. But you've just praised the game and it sounds perfect. Well, nothing's perfect. What happens if your horse dies? You can revive it with a revival kit. Just don't let it fall off a cliff or be struck by a train, because no amount of resuscitation will bring it back. Some of the other things that can be a little bit frustrating are when you're being robbed, you resort to your 6-shooters, and then all of a sudden you have a bounty on your head. No trial, just guilty as charged. Also, the hunting can be fun. However, you can pretty much put them all down with Deadeye after 14 shots. A little disappointing considering how much time they put into making these legendary beasts. These minor discrepancies can be forgiven, as the majority of the game is near flawless. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an accomplishment worthy of commendations. It's been 8 years since the last title, but the wait was well worth it. The story's gritty, the trail is dusty, and the coffee, well, I'll let you experience that for yourself.